top stories, government warns of stern measures against banditry and robbery in places not controlled by defense forces in Tigray. And Sweden will press ahead with the provision of humanitarian and development assistance for Ethiopia. Hello and thank you for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. Stay with us. The Government Communication Service said that the safety and security of dwellers of Mekelle City should be protected. In a weekly press briefing, State Minister of the Government Communication Service, Salamawit Kasa, reiterated that the government will continue to expedite inclusive activities to make the Pretoria Peace Agreement successful. She also urged that all parties should fulfill their responsibilities to ensure that the peace agreement is implemented in accordance with the directive set. Shagawi Matao has more.
In a weekly press briefing, the Government Communication Service said that the government has been diligently implementing the details of the peace agreement for the sake of peace dividends for all. However, evidence is coming out that organized crimes are being committed in areas that the National Defense Forces have not yet reached.
በተለይም ደግሞ የትግራይ ህዝብ አሁን ላይ ያጣጣመ የሚገኘውን ሰላም ከዛም ባሻገር ደግሞ ጎረቤትም
These criminals have exploited the transitional situation for their transgression. Especially in Mekelle, there are persistent reports that organized robbery is being committed with the accompaniment of armed patrols. The federal government wants to underline that these criminals will be held accountable. We urge all those concerned and responsible entities in the area to stand for the well-being of the people in the region. The federal government will take all necessary measures to safeguard the security of the people in those areas and discharge its responsibilities.
In addition, she also explained that the government is working hard to implement the terms of the agreement in the northern part of the country. On this move, the government is delivering humanitarian assistance to the Tigray region by land and air transport as per the agreement reached through participating about 29 partner organizations in the humanitarian assistance operation.
The humanitarian support is being provided to the Tigray region in 3 corridors via Far Abala, Gondar, Maizabri, Shire and Kombolcha, Qobo, Alamat lines. Till December 14, more than 93,000 metric tons of food, over 8,000 metric tons of non-food supplies, and more than 833,000 liters of fuel have entered to Tigray. Moreover, medicines with the cost of 78.7 million birr by the government and 158 metric tons of medicines have been sent to the Tigray region with support of partners, and 588 billion birr have been delivered for business operation in the region.
Apart from the humanitarian assistance, Salamawit stated that inspection and maintenance works have been carried out on 85% of electric infrastructures in the region.
በኤሌክትሪክ ኃይል በኩል በጦርነት ከወደሙት የትራንስሚሽን መስመሮች ውስጥ ወደ 85
8 power substations, including the Mekelle distribution station, have been reconnected to the national grid. Repair and maintenance works will be completed and electric series fully restored in all parts of Tigray within the coming 2 months. In relation to telecom, 65 telecom stations have been put into operation and network installation works have been completed to restart banking service in 8 towns in the region.
Regarding the restoration and reconstruction of infrastructure, Salamawit disclosed that 6 bridges that were repaired recently have started services. She added that preparations are underway to reinstate more than 2,200 health professionals to their posts in Aksum, Adwa and Shire towns.
The U.S.-Africa Summit in Washington, D.C. is said a productive and historic forum to uplift the Africa-U.S. partnerships in various ways, according to Seleshi Bekkele, the Ethiopian ambassador and plenipotentiary to Washington, D.C. According to the ambassador, the American Academy of Achievement awards Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for his achievement in the Green Legacy Initiative in Ethiopia and the region. Kasahun Chani presents it.
And as a team partnering for a prosperous and resilient future, USAIDF, hosted by the United States Department of Commerce, Cooperative Council on Africa, and the United States Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the Prosper Africa Initiative. The event has brought together African heads of state and United States and African business and government leaders to advance mutually beneficial two-way trade and investment partnerships that bolster Africa's role in a global economy, scale innovation and entrepreneurship, create jobs, drive advancements in key economic sectors, and foster inclusive and sustainable growth on both sides of the Atlantic. This US-Africa summit in Washington, D.C. is a productive, historic forum to uplift the Africa-United States partnerships in various ways that are, according to Seleshie Bekele, the Ethiopian ambassador and plenipotentiary to Washington, D.C. As per Bekele, the productive forum where various African leaders have been participating, including the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, is crucial to the sustainable development of the continent.
መሪዎች ደረጃ በሚኒስትሮች ደረጃ በሲቪል ሶሳይቲ ደረጃ በቲንክ
These forums that are in the level of the leaders, ministers, CSOs and including the think tank discussions were undertaken effectively. And the meeting particularly has focused on investment issues that USA is going to invest a 54 billion USD in Africa.
ኢንቨስትመንት በምን አካባቢዎች እንደሆነ የሚያመላክት ኮር ኤሌመንት ያለው
Bekele also underscored the American Academy of Achievement Awards Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for his achievement in the green legacy of combating global warming.
አሜሪካ ሁለት ትልቅ ተቋማት በጋራ ያዘጋጁት
America, where two giant institutions have prepared a highly decorated and respected award for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for his rigorous initiative a few years ago that the Green Legacy enabled Ethiopia to plant several billions of trees across the country to tackle global warming and the negative impacts of climate change. This award is an award for those exemplary and model leaders of the USA and very few leaders of the world for their great achievement.
The ambassador further stated that this historic forum has paramount importance to enhance the multilateral partnerships between Ethiopia and the United States of America.
Dear viewers, now I'm preparing to host the news package of the day. Our reporters are always striving to present you fresh stories on Ethiopia's socio-economic and political affairs. And we, the presenters, we always strive to present to you the stories in a way that you can relate to. Before I head to the studio and present myself to the audience, I have to look presentable. Hello dear viewers, I'm Tabitha John and this is Addis News Hour. Do stay with us. The Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, Martin Griffiths, said that humanitarian access into the Tigray region has continued to improve since the peace agreement. Food and other supplies are being transported through 4 corridors through Afar and Amhara regions into Tigray. Between 15th November and 8th December, the government of Ethiopian partners have mobilized more than 1,600 trucks to deliver more than 63,800 metric tons of food and more than 4,000 metric tons of health, shelter, education, protection supplies, as well as water, sanitation, and hygiene supplies, Martin Griffiths indicated. Meanwhile, electric lines and telecommunications have started being restored in several places, including in Aksum and Shire towns. This has a positive impact on humanitarian operations and communities, he noted. Assistance and rehabilitation work in conflict-affected areas in Afar and Amhara states are also being scaled up, but more is needed, especially in areas where displaced populations are returning following improved security, the coordinator said. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA Ethiopia, announced that it needs additional funding for humanitarian aid. In an exclusive interview with EPA, OCHA Ethiopia office head Michelle Saad said the humanitarian response plan of OCHA, which was reviewed recently, has shown that the office has received $3.1 billion to provide the affected people with the required aid, indicating that the office has been working in collaboration with the Ethiopian government from federal to district level and discussing the way to scale up humanitarian assistance to the people in need. The office head said that the peace accord made between the government of Ethiopia and TPLF will enable it to intensify the assistance for those who never had the access so far. Asked about the recent security status of the country, especially in war-torn areas right after the peace deal, Michelle Saad said, "If I take the northern part of the country, we have seen access routes, be it by land or by air, increasing, and this by itself is a testimony to the fact that the former severe situation has largely gone down and stabilized in northern parts," he opinioned. Minister of Planning and Development Fitsum Asafa says, as it is significant to respond to Ethiopia's conflict and climate-induced impacts, it is also equally important to address structural challenges that caused them. The minister made the remarks during the United Nations Development Programme Annual Development Conference held in Addis Ababa yesterday under the theme Ethiopia 2030, a country transformed, options for a next generation of reforms. Jerusalem has the detail.
On the United Nations Development Programme UNDP Annual Development Conference held in Addis Ababa on Friday, Minister of Planning and Development Fitsum Asafa recalled that Ethiopia has faced multiple challenges since it started wide-ranging political, justice, security and economic reforms with the aim to transform the country into growing democracy and the state-led economy into private-led growth and development. The minister also noted that Ethiopia faced conflict a year into implementing the homegrown economic reform launched in 2019, and the external development support decreased, shifting the focus on conflict-affected and climate-induced impacts.
But equally important was, addressing the structural challenge that caused be it conflict or drought, but that didn't happen, and most of our, reform milestones that we hoped to achieve really didn't happen. So, the finance was also one of the shock that could be mentioned among the others. These shocks have led to slowing growth, in development.
UNDP Resident Representative Truhan Saleh on the occasion said the partnership with Ethiopia during the challenges has focused on responding to crucial events related to survival that are different from the development of the country. Development is not the same thing as survival if left unchecked, the United Nations Development Programme representative stressed.
We want to go beyond the focus on survival. We are here to forge a community that believes the best of Ethiopia still lies ahead of us. And we can't wait collectively to come together to deliberate upon, debate, and discuss how we could help Ethiopia get there.
UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator Catherine Sozi said the country has been facing multiple challenges, including conflict, COVID-19, and climate change consequences, and the humanitarian caseloads have been growing from year to year for many years. The UN family is here in Ethiopia to support the UN Agenda 2013 and the SDGs, she noted, stating that achieving this agenda has been facing challenges in every country in the world.
Especially urgent here because we are at a critical junction as Ethiopia seeks to look ahead to peace, recovery, and reducing the people's humanitarian needs and vulnerabilities.
Sozi also added it's crucial to reflect on the challenges and support Ethiopia accelerate the government's 10-year development plan, which is clearly aligned with the UN 2013 and AU 2063 agendas.
The 70th Global Institute.
It's expected that Ethiopia is what Ethiopians
Our news is always aired on Monday to Friday on 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. and also on Saturday and Sunday on 9 p.m. Make sure to follow us. Welcome back. British Consul Ethiopia office celebrated its 80th anniversary in the presence of Ethiopian Deputy Prime Minister Dammaqe Mokonnin, the British Embassy to Ethiopia, the British Consul, top senior staff members, and invited guests in the premises of the Consul colorfully. Take a look at this.
It is my pleasure to be a part of this momentous occasion for our long-standing partner, the British Council. Congratulations on your 18th anniversary in Ethiopia. As someone who has seen firsthand your contribution to our country, and also as someone who has benefited from the institution as a graduate student in the UK, I would like to add my personal congratulations. Happy anniversary. The British Council is one of the oldest modern institutions in Ethiopia. Its contributions to individual and institutional capacity building are very significant. From helping with expanding modern quality education at school and university levels to building critical leadership capabilities at all levels, to providing vital information and knowledge to generations of Ethiopians, the British Council has done a commendable job for connecting the people of Ethiopia and the UK. We also acknowledge the long-standing relationship between our two countries in the areas of education and arts and culture facilitated by the British Council. We value this long-standing relationship which has evolved through time. As a country and a continent with a young population, young peoples are the catalyst of change for Ethiopia's and the continent's socio-economic transformation, making a positive impact not only at a national and continental, but also a global level. They will also play a strong role in the peace and development of our country.
Netzanet Demos, the British Consul Country Director, said that the British Consul has played its paramount significance in cultural and educational opportunities in Ethiopia and beyond.
It's a matter of great pride to all of us at the British Council to see generations of Ethiopians take advantage of the opportunities we created to broaden their horizon, gain the skills and knowledge, and use the networks to advance their careers and to move to positions of influence in country, regionally, and globally. Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, the British Council is the UK's international organization for cultural relations and educational opportunities, and it creates mutually beneficial relationships. The British Council arrived in Ethiopia in August 1942, soon after the end of the Italian occupation and the return of Emperor Haile Selassie I from exile in the UK. Within a year, there were already 10 British Council employees working in schools across the country. Ever since, the Council has been engaged in building connections and facilitating exchange among the peoples of Ethiopia and the UK.
The British Council, which is the United Kingdom's international organization for cultural relations and educational opportunities, has created strong relations between the people of Ethiopia and the people of the UK.
And the longevity of its existence demonstrates the UK's commitment to mutually beneficial and lasting relations with this country. The long-term, trusted relationships that the British Council has at all levels, the in-country expertise across the arts and culture, education and English, and are huge assets which the UK will continue to use to further strengthen people-to-people relationships between Ethiopia and the UK. The British Council educates and empowers women and girls, supports vital education system reform, builds young people's resilience through skills development, including English, life and employment skills. With a growing young population, there is more demand for the Council's services in Ethiopia. The relationship will continue to deepen to the benefit of the bilateral relationship and to individual Ethiopians and UK nationals.
Sweden's ambassador to Ethiopia, Hans Henrik Lindqvist, said Sweden will continue to support the humanitarian needs of conflict and drought-affected areas in Ethiopia and its development activities. In an exclusive interview with ENA, the ambassador noted his country will continue providing humanitarian assistance for the conflict-affected Tigray, Amhara and Afar regions, as well as drought-affected areas in the country. Shagao Yamato has the following account from ENA.
In an exclusive interview with Ethiopian news agency, Swedish ambassador to Ethiopia, Hans Henrik Lundqvist, underlined that Sweden will continue to support the humanitarian needs of conflict and drought-affected areas in Ethiopia and its development activities.
We will do what we can as Sweden, but also part of the European Union, to see how we can support development in the country, and that is very much needed. A peaceful, sustainable Ethiopia will benefit the whole country.
Stating that Sweden has increased humanitarian assistance to Ethiopia, the ambassador underlined it will continue supporting the development program in the new 5-year strategy.
We have a new development strategy, a 5-year strategy for Ethiopia, and we have also increased our humanitarian assistance quite substantially. But I think it's also important to say that humanitarian assistance is important, but we also need to find more sustainable solution and durable solutions in those conflict affected areas. But we also have drought affected areas, so there are many crises at the same time. But this is something that we will continue to provide support based on the needs and what role Sweden can play in this.
Sweden and Ethiopia have a long relationship not only in development assistance but also partnership in investment in the private sector. The African Telemedicine Network Conference has been held in Addis Ababa in the presence of high-level government officials, including the Health Minister, Dr. Liya Tadesse, among others. The telemedicine network was initiated by Ethiopians engaged in the private sector in Ethiopia in cooperation with other Africans. A technology named Habari Doc that would help patients get appropriate services from health professionals wherever they are was launched in the conference. The Minister of Health, Dr. Liya Tadesse, said the telemedicine network is the best method to improve the quality of health services in remote areas. The minister said that besides reducing costs, the network would help improve efficiency by increasing service quality and customer satisfaction, as well as facilitating the transfer of knowledge between professionals.
Well, that's a terrible back header into the path of Higuain, who should have opened the scoring in the World Cup.